Thank you for joining Mzazi Talks. My name is Francisca Zanga from Mzazi, Mommy and Me, and we're joined here by Dr. Mary MaduMadu and Christine from Step by Stories Kenya. And today we'll be discussing special needs parenting. So thank you for joining us, ladies. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So my question actually would be directed to you, Dr. Mary. What are some of the characteristics that define a child as being special needs?
Basically, special needs is any child who is not performing at par with their peers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you're not walking like your peers, or you're not walking at all, if your peers are walking, then I would say that there's a mental delay.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking, when your peers are talking, you're not seeing the speech delay. So we actually compare the children with their peers.
Mm-hmm. What should I expect when I come to you? What should I expect? What are some of the diagnoses or the procedures that you take to actually confirm that yes, this child might have a special condition or it might just be something else?
Okay, the first thing is that we look at the child and the child comes to the office. That tells us a lot because the child will be supposed to be looking at you, the child is supposed maybe to be walking, talking. At whatever developmental age, the child is supposed to be behaving in a particular way, like the peers of that developmental age. So if that doesn't happen, we start raising red flags. So as you walk in, we look. Mm-hmm. Then after that, we take a history, we ask questions. Then after that, now we can now go into the examinations and investigations.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but as soon as you suspect anything, even if you're not sure, however young your child is, it is best to start getting help then. Mm-hmm. Because when your child is small, it's easier to get to a child's full potential because at that point, the child's brain is plastic. It has a lot of unused resources.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
As we grow, as a child, as human beings grow older, we tend to lose those resources.
Okay.
So I hope I'm fighting the concept of the father talked at 8. Please wait. No, don't wait. Don't wait. The earlier, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, and I think also part of the reason why parents do that is because you're in life. You want to wait it out as long as possible because you're hoping for the best. Okay.
Yeah, and now in my field, Masa, I'm thinking how much time do I have before in 7 years? There's this when the cochlear implants came, they realized when they did cochlear implants on children who maybe were above 7 years, maybe not all, yeah, who were above 7 years, but never had any hearing device on, hearing aids or anything on, they didn't work because they had lost that ability. But those who tried to get a little help, even though they put on hearing aids that were not working very effective, when they got that surgery, it worked. So the early intervention, however little, is better than nothing. Don't wait. Mm-hmm. It's hard, and that's why I think they're here to give the emotional, psychological support. I will not pretend it's not a hard thing, mm-hmm. But from where I stand, Lord, I hope it does not sound callous, but as you mourn, let us also start the process of help. Get somebody to help you psychologically, as now we start now the medical bit.
Okay. And Christine, you are a mother yourself of 2 lovely children who are also special needs.
Yes.
At what point did you know that something is amiss, something might be wrong?
With the first one, we noticed it when she was almost a year old. She had surgery at 3 months, so she had a bit of delayed development. But at around 1 year, when she wasn't walking as she should be, one of my friends was like, you need to see the doctor about this. So we saw the news. the neonatologist who was seeing her at that time, and she was like, let's put her on occupational therapy, let's put her on physio, let's see how she goes on from there. And from then on, that's when we knew there was something wrong. But when it came to her education, we noticed it when she joined school and she wasn't able to write as her peers were writing or as her classmates were doing. So that's when we knew there might be something wrong when it came to her education part.
Mm-hmm.
But now for the second one, we noticed a bit earlier because we had an idea of there was something wrong with the first one, so we were more keen on the second one. Because first time parents is kind of, you go with the flow, you learn as you go on. Yeah. But for the second one, I remember at 6 months and she wasn't sitting. Then we went back to the doctors and we're like, there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And even when we started now the therapy, we even had the physiotherapy equipment in the house because of the first one. So we even just got a therapist to come home and now do the occupational therapy. And from then on, that's when we followed. So for the second one, it was a bit earlier because we had already known about the first one. So you can say the second one was lucky because of the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did that change your life, basically?
It does a lot. As she was talking about mourning, you go into denial, you say, no, this can't be happening. Especially for the second one. I was like, it can't be happening the second time round. No, you curse, you actually tell God, no, this is not the relationship we were supposed to have. I even broke up with God for a while because I was like, you can't do this to me again, because you've prayed, you're like, I was a good girl, I was a good mother, there's nothing I did wrong, my pregnancy was right, I saw the doctor, I did this, I did that. So it comes as it does a number on you, and if you're not careful, it can also affect your mental health. Because you find a lot of special needs parents go through a lot of mental health problems, and because they have so much to focus on, they don't take care of themselves, and some end up going through depression and all that, because it's a mourning period. You grieve what you thought you were going to have. Mm-hmm. You had a perfect childhood all set out for your child, but now you have to move aside and now deal with something else, take a different road. There's a very nice clip online, it's called Welcome to Holland, whereby it just basically says you're on an airplane on your way to Italy, for example, you've done your research of Italy, but when it comes to landing, you find yourself in Holland where you don't know the language, you don't know the places to visit, it's all new and you're alone. But the good thing about me is that I got to learn about a few people who had kids with special needs, and the support system came from there. So at least it helped me some. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what about your relationship with family and with friends? Would you say that did it have an impact on you?
It does. Because first of all, as an individual, you're so focused on your kids that you don't even look around to those around you. Your lucky family sticks because they're bound to stick. They don't have an option. They don't have a choice. But with friends, you'll find some will let you go because they've been trying to invite you for parties, for meetings, but you're too busy because you're too busy taking care of your child. You wonder, will I go out today, or will I make sure my child is fine? Or I don't even have the funds to go out, for example, because maybe I've paid the speech therapy or the money that I had, because it's not cheap. And you have to chip in where you did not ordinarily think you would. So you find yourself turning down a lot of invites, and friends who really do not understand you will actually move away and share away from you and say, oh, this one is too busy for me, but you're not too busy for a bad reason, you get. Yeah. So you tend to lose a few friends along the way. Yeah.
But in your journey, looking for support, you actually created, and we'll talk about that later, but you actually created a platform where you offer support to special needs parents as well. And how does that help, being able to have at least another parent who can relate?
There's nothing as uplifting as somebody telling you me too. Just those two words,
Me too.
me too. And you know they actually mean it. There's nothing as relaxing as that, because I can come and tell you, oh, I've been going through this. Oh yeah, me too, but I overcame it, and it gives you hope. And just that is what you need. So you find that in the support group, a lot of parents go through a lot, but it's not so bad as it would be if you're going through it alone. Yeah.
Okay, so Dr. In the course of your career, what would you say are the most common special needs conditions that you've come across?
Autism. I've come across quite a bit of autism. I've also come across a lot of cerebral palsy. Speech delay, that is not autism. There's also quite a bit of that. And then now the learning disorders.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So,
and with the learning disorders, I think ADHD is also quite,
okay.
So,
maybe you could expound on each of those. What is autism?
autism is a specific disorder whereby the child is unable to communicate, has unable to socialize, and has funny, stereotypic behaviors. Now, in layman's term, with what basically, if your child is unable to communicate and is not behaving like other children, wants to be alone and does not want to look into the eyes, then we'll have a problem.
Okay.
Yes. So, and autism is a condition whereby the parts of the brain that deal with communication somehow stop working. And they don't stop working instantly, because if they did and his parents would run to for help, they do so gradually. So by the time the symptoms zimeiva, it has been going on for a while.
Okay.
Yes. So that's autism. You want me to talk about another condition?
Yes, the cerebral palsy.
Cerebral palsy is a condition whereby there is what we would call an insult, something that has injured the brain of a growing child. So something that has injured and growing brain, and then the injury stops. And then the brain, which is growing, is left trying to cope with the injury, or maybe it has been so injured that part of the growth does not continue.
Okay.
Yes.
So what are the symptoms of cerebral palsy?
It depends on the part of the brain that has been injured.
Okay.
A lot of times the traditional definition of cerebral palsy dealt a lot with movement, motor.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would if your hand stops working, if it's weak, we'd call it monoparesis. If it is now disabled, then you add the plagia bit. So you can have monoparesis, monoplegia. You can have hemiparesis, hemiplegia. You can have di or diplegia. It depends on the parts
That has been affected.
Okay.
Okay.
Many times we have this big picture, but even if your finger is affected, we can call that cerebral palsy. So we can say we have grades, yes, but the ones that I think we know that cause disability are the big ones.
Yeah.
Where a big limbs, or even the trunk, whereby you can't maybe sit up, you float like a rag doll.
Okay.
Yes.
And you had mentioned also learning disorders, and there's usually an assumption that if a child has special needs, then they have a learning disorder. But you've mentioned it separately, so I'm assuming that is not the case?
It's not necessarily, because we live in an intensely academic environment right now. So the teachers would say this child cannot perform in class. So if a child cannot perform in class, they can't read, maybe because they can't process letters, or they can't process numbers. That's very different. You can have somebody with cerebral palsy, maybe has a diplegia, can't use the legs, but they can hear well, they can think well, they can read well, they can write to their hands even number one in class. That child does not have a learning disorder, but maybe has a disability. Okay. Yes.
Okay. And still on that, what role now for those who might have a learning disorder, or just generally for special needs children, what role can music play in helping them with their education?
That's okay. It's a broad question, so let me try and answer it. The main causes of learning disorder, we have a right brain and a left brain. For most of us, language and logic is on the left side, and art and music is on the right side. Many times it's easier to stimulate the art and music to teach things like language. So you'd see in places where they have advanced the whole special education, you can even have music therapy to teach. Yes. So music, if it connects with your child, can really be used to help them. Now, you cannot help any child if it does not, if you do not play.
Okay.
Play is then you can't get a child and say, now, I'm going to teach you to talk. Listen, you will get in there. So many times we tend to have games, and many games are more fun.
You should make it interactive.
When you sing. If you want to teach them to say it's easier for you to teach them when you sing black sheep, and they just say look at my dad. So music also gives us a platform for a lot of interactive fun play with children. Yes.
Christine, you have 2 children.
Yeah.
Who are both in school. Do you feel like the education system in Kenya supports special needs children adequately?
No. I'll give an example. For my first one, we shifted to schools before we got to where we are. The first school wanted to move her from nursery to pre-unit, yet she couldn't her name because she was getting older. So they were like, she needs to move with her peers, but we were like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. The second school actually closed the special needs unit, so we didn't have a place for her to stay in. So you find that we're at the mercy of schools. As parents of children with special needs, we're at the mercy of schools. If a school offers special needs curriculum, then they may decide to do it at any point. They're not mandated to do it. So it's not like a law that all schools should cater for children with special needs, whether public or private. If it's more like, can they afford to? And speaking of affording, you find that the fees are usually very exorbitant. We can both have our children in the same class, but I'll pay more because my child is special needs. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm paying for in terms of the services, because they might be getting the same level of, especially if it's in the lower class. They might be getting the same level of attention, but I will pay more than you because my child is special needs.
That's just that they just charge you more just because. Okay. And how what would you prefer? What do you say would be ideal in terms of an education system?
An integrated system. We are moving away from, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Ali, we are moving away from, what do you call it?
Segregation?
Yes, segregation to integration, and to make sure at least all kids are together, mainstream, not only for certain classes but throughout. And if worst case scenario, your child needs to have more attention, then they're moved slightly away for a few, maybe a lesson or two, then they're brought back to class. So I would like to see a lot of integration and not segregation, whereby you have a special needs unit, whereby you have excuse me, a mix of different types of special needs in one class with a teacher and an assistant. That doesn't work because one, those children are not at par. They're not in the same level of understanding, be it intellectually or developmentally. And if you had these children in their respective classes with peers who would actually help them, because a lot of kids learn by copying, and you'll find that excuse me, you'll find that if they were in class with their peers, they would gain more. Even if it's not learning-wise, socially they would gain more. So a lot of integration is very key.
So integration meaning both children are in the same class, they're
Yes.
not put separately?
No.
Okay. And what is a shadow teacher?
A shadow teacher is a teacher who sits with a special needs child in a mainstream class and tries to bring the child up to par with what their peers are learning, and if necessary pulls the child out of class and slowly repeats and tries to and enables the child to come up to par with what they were learning in class. So it's like you have a teacher in front, but your child also has a teacher on the side, just helping them gain and learn more from what is being taught.
Okay. And do you feel, now that's on the education system, and you had mentioned the fees.
Yeah.
Does the government have any kind of financial aid they give to special needs parents?
That will, from what I've heard, I stand corrected, but it comes to when your child is registered with the National Council of Persons with Disability.
Okay.
They have to go through assessment. The government has to acknowledge that yes, you're a child with disability, and these are what you have. So they give you a card, and from there, I think you get 2,000 a month.
Okay.
And I don't know what 2,000 a month can do in this economy. It can't even pay you a session of speech therapy. One session of speech therapy, and the money is gone. So you wonder what the lady in the village is going to do, because these therapies are a lot. What I wish the government would do is offer these services if not for free, at very subsidized rates. Even if it's at the county hospitals, speech therapy, occupational therapy, because with therapy you find that it's a long-term process. It's not a one-off. It's not like you go for surgery and you're out and you're good. No, it has to be long-term, and it depends on individuals, on how they progress based on that therapy. If the government can't do that, then I think the best thing they can do is offer tax exemption to us parents, because we do spend a lot. So what we get from the tax exemption, that money can go into providing for our children their various needs and stuff there.
So the exemptions given though to persons with disabilities?
Yes, directly to persons with disabilities. The exemption is tax exemption for your first 150,000. Then there's you can bring in a car tax. What's that, duty? Duty free. Yeah, duty free.
Okay.
And then also a few other tax will carry that you can get some subsidies and stuff. Yes, but that's only for the person with disability.
Okay. Yeah, not for the parents.
No, not for the parents.
Have to actually bring up these children, and that's when majority of actually the costs and the fees.
As Dr. clearly mentioned, the earlier the intervention, the better.
Yeah.
And you see, intervention costs money, so that can start from the beginning. So by the time the child is reaching 18, the child has gotten maximum of maximum intervention, and they are ready to live a better life, as she said, as possible, as a better life, and what do you call it, level of life as possible. Yeah.
Quality of life.
Yes, quality of life, yes, as possible. So by the time they're reaching 18, that money won't help them, no offense. In terms of if they didn't get their adequate management before, by the time they're getting to 18, it's too late. Yeah, that money doesn't do much to their quality of life as it would have been if they were younger.
Okay. And Tari, there's some conditions that you had mentioned. Are any of these conditions genetic? Or would you say special needs conditions have a genetic component to them?
Some have.
Okay.
There are many causes. Some are genetic, and others are infectious.
Okay.
I've been to Down syndrome is genetic. Yeah. Fragile X is genetic. I'm mentioning scientific terms. But infection, a mother can maybe get chlamydia, all types of plasmosis. These are infections that can be treated, even syphilis when you're pregnant, and then even HIV, and then that can affect the child. So some of it is infection. Others I would call maybe mechanical, around birth. The birth canal will be small, the baby is being squeezed.
Okay.
It's prolonged labor, it's a difficult labor, it gets a point whereby the baby is now not getting oxygen, the brain doesn't get oxygen, parts of the brain start dying, we call that asphyxia. That also can get. Then in terms of infection, a child can be born and develop normally, maybe gets an accident, falls somewhere, hits the head, or is hit by a car, or even gets an infection like meningitis. Before the 3 vaccines were added into our public vaccination schedule, the meningitis, the pneumococcal, and the hemophilus. Before these 3 were added, a lot of the cerebral palsies would go like this child was okay, walked, talked, got a fever, went from hospital A, B, C, landed in coma, and when he came out of coma, can't see, can't hear, can't talk. At least that story is now ending, and I'm really grateful for that. But a lot of the cerebral palsies, especially go where children and their parents are poor, that story used to really come right. That's very sad.
Like for example with screen time, do you have any guidelines for parents on that?
Well, I can talk specifically about screen time because screen time, I'm glad the American Pediatric Association came out with screen guidelines, because I think before it was just the pediatricians and the neurologists who deal with pediatricians who used to say, TV is bad, smartphones are bad, but now they actually came up and 0, you can Google it, 2 years and below, 0 TV. 0, but nevertheless, a screen is not only the TV. The screen is your smartphone, it is your iPad, it is your computer, because in places where they have the PET scans and functional MRIs, you put a screen in front of a baby, the communication part of the brain is very silent, because the brain knows the baby can't tell the TV, hi, and the TV says, hi, say, I want milk, and the TV said, oh, which type? No, just look. And that communication part of the brain is silent, it's resting.
So nothing is happening, they're not learning anything?
Not that they're not learning, but they're not learning to communicate, especially in conditions like autism, whereby it is affecting the communication part of the brain. So I'm not saying they're not learning, you see, but put a face there, especially one of mommy. Ting, 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 the brain is on, we can learn. So they say, play with your children. I think I like the good old days. You played.
Yeah.
You played with the children. Yeah. And some of them, I told you speakingly that is not autism. I think I'm seeing a lot of it, which I believe is just when a child is 6 months, implemented on the sofa, his TV switched on, auntie does work, mommy is at work, daddy is at work. That child will not learn to talk because of course they cannot talk to the TV. Actually, if I can summarize the guidelines, you see 2 years and below is 0.
Oh, okay.
Then from 2, I think 2 to about 6, whereby now you can watch but interactive. So it's not a matter of watching. It's a matter of if you're watching your own, you're on the bus, you also mommy. Yes, it's not like I'm so tired. You look like you interact with the baby as we learn ABC there. You see? And of course for the older children, you just make sure it does not interfere with their eating, with education. Yes, you put guidelines. Yeah. So screen time really is
2 years below 0.
0. Please play with your babies. You'll be bored because also you will not be on WhatsApp and Facebook. So you also have all the time to play, and the baby will be bored. So the baby will come, put your ears and earrings, play. Yes, I think that is good. But to answer your question comprehensively, because you said how can we support with disability? It depends on the type of disability. I'm not a teacher, but how can I support the education and the learning? First, get a proper reason why the disability is there. If you're able to sort out the disability, maybe I can't hear because I got a bad flu, blocked the ears, got antibiotics, thick mucus is blocking the middle ear. That's very easy to sort it out. Once it's properly diagnosed, and yet you can sort it out properly, then you come for rehab so that the child catches up with the kids and they continue their life. But if it's something that can't be treated and fully sorted out, maybe it can be managed, or it can be controlled, or the damage it has caused to that part of the brain that is involved with learning can be trained. That's when therapy comes in. Therapy is basically training the brain so that we can either reverse fully. Sometimes we can do that, and research has shown we can reverse fully, or we get the highest potential within those circumstances.
Okay, and Kristen, you had mentioned about the support that parents, especially special needs parents, need to help them cope with the new life. And you've actually set up a platform to help parents, to support parents. Why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Okay, my kids have rare conditions, and I couldn't get a local support group. The support groups I was getting were either geared directly to autism, to cerebral palsy, and my kids didn't fit into that. And the ones I could get for my kids were in US, Europe. And I needed somebody local who understood our health system, who understood our economy, who would actually get it when I say I can't afford this. Or because I would go to the support groups outside and they would talk about how their health insurance is giving them horse riding, how their health insurance is giving them fancy things that even I can't think about. And that it wasn't working for me, it was actually more depressing. So I decided to start one called Step by Stones, whereby it wasn't geared to a specific special needs, but just for any parent to feel welcome to come and share and feel like they're at home. That at least there's something they can say and somebody else will help them through it and give them guidance.
And maybe to close off, what advice would you have to newly diagnosed parents or special needs children? What advice would you have for them?
To seek support, as hard as it is to seek support. Dr. MaduMadu clearly put it all very well, and she said, as much as you're mourning, do the therapies. It may be hard for you to accept that your child has a disability, but as much as you're trying to accept, deal with it at the same time. Such that by the time you're getting to acceptance, you've done so much for your child that it's not as bad as it was before. And also seek emotional and psychosocial support where necessary. Don't just close yourself and say that I'm okay, because trust me, you're not okay. You might think things look like you have everything in control, but you don't. You might need somebody to just hold your hand through this journey, because it's a lifelong journey. It's something new. So for me to be to seek support and to try as much as possible involve doctors, so at least as much as you're going through the grieving process, your child is getting the help that they need.
And what advice would you have for society as well in general?
Our society is even bigger. I would wish that they'll be more welcoming to our children. I'm seeing at least like some organizations, some recreational places are at least getting disability friendly, but I wish society would be more understanding. If you see a child throwing a tantrum in the supermarket, don't think it's an unruly child. Maybe it's a child with autism who can't process all the noise that's going on in a busy supermarket. Don't be quick to judge. Don't keep engaging as parents of children with special needs. We might seem that we are too busy for you, but we're not too busy. We really need that. Let me call it nagging. Get out. Keep on telling me get out. Keep on telling me, inviting me for your functions. One day I will surprise you and come. And you never know, that one day might be the best day of my year. But yes, just keep on engaging us. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, Christine. Thank you, Mutena, for coming here today. Yes, and if you have any questions for Dr. Mary or for Christine, kindly put them in the comment section below and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.